Nice cat. Jesus. So today we have a person named Henley Bailey who is saying that he finds the CR-10 bed setup just a little bit confusing with how it homes, evidently, or levels. He says he has it level, but the menus and settings to home things isn't very clear. So perhaps what he's experiencing is that when he manually homes the machine, it goes to a particular Z offset, and then when he begins a print, he finds that that Z offset is different, which may be because in the slicer settings he's specified something there that changes that. So we'll see what his question relates to. It's probably about that because he said he had the bed level. So we'll see what he reports. It's just 2 minutes before he's due to sign in here with me. So I'm just waiting for him. With my friend Tyrion here. Yeah? Really? No pumpkin seeds, bro. In the background here, we have a bunch of PPE face mask frames or face shields being printed and donated. I have about 30 made in this bin here behind me. So there's a volunteer coming to pick them up tomorrow. Hey man, stop. I told you not to eat those, those are mine. And it is noon. My phone. Hello? 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 Do you hear me? Are you able to hear me? No? Why not? How about now? Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Oh yeah. Oh, let me just go back. I think I pressed something. Hang on a sec. Let me go
Hello?
back. Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
I can't hear you. Are you able to hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. I don't see that you're muted.
Um,
You have input from your microphone.
can you hear me? Um,
Hmm.
let me just-
Excuse me. This may be my fault. Speak now. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Gary, that's totally my bad. Sorry, my output was low.
Okay, no worries. That's cool. How you doing? You right?
I'm doing fine. Yep. How are you doing today?
Cool. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, not. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock here. So what time is it there? Like midday or something? Is it?
It's noon here right now.
This what? Sorry.
It's noon here right now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So what's the issue with your CR-10?
Um, it's not. It's not so much an issue. It's more that I wasn't understanding like bed leveling. So when I go to do bed leveling, it's got home, it's got the Z height, and things like that, and there is no real kind of explanation as to um, what they actually do. So that you go through a process, but I don't
Sure.
actually understand why. What's going on.
It's pretty basic. So the CR-10, remind me, does that have does it have 3 or 4 knobs under the bed to do the leveling?
It's four.
It's 4?
Yeah.
Okay. So with 4-point bed leveling, what essentially you're doing is you go over each individual point, and then you
Yeah.
put your slider, paper or whatever in there, your Post-it, whatever, feeler gauge or whatever you have. You get it to that offset, and then you go to the next point, and you do that again. Now, because because 3 points define a plane, when you have a 4th point, that's not necessarily ideal. But what you want to do with a 4th point, and even with the 3 points, is you want to go around as many times as it takes that you count to 4 for 4 points. So if you adjust point 1, and then you adjust point 2, but you don't adjust point 3, and you don't adjust point 4, that's
Good.
2 that you've counted to, 2 that you haven't adjusted. So the trick is you go to all of them in sequence until you go to all of them and they require no adjustment. So that's how you get it level. When we say level, what we really mean is level is perpendicular to the direction of gravity. But if your table is tilted, then you don't want a level bed, right? You want a bed that is parallel to all this head moving around. So these two
Sure.
planes to be parallel. So we call it a bed that's tram, technically, but level is good enough to say.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, that's cool. Like, so if I show you, actually, I'll just switch the camera around. Hang on.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, so we've got, wait, all right, here we go. So this is the CR-10S Pro, and ultimately, if I go into, say, settings,
Right.
leveling, and then so we've got the leveling here. So we've got home, and then the Z height plus minus, ox leveling. So I mean, I do the manual leveling like you mentioned. I go around and just make sure the spacing is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like, what's the home button? I mean, I can understand that might take it to its like a home point that it thinks is, which is set. But
Right, so that will home the Z-axis, and what that does on any printer is that will turn the Z threaded rod or whatever it is until it clicks the limit switch that says you are at 0 and stop. So you can, if you want to adjust, say, the global Z offset, like if you want to start working with thicker layers and you need to back the head away from the bed by a tiny bit to accommodate that, you could do things like adjust what you say is your Z end stop trigger. So there's going to be like a screw that like touches the Z end stop when it homes. Click, and it clicks that. Are you able to see where that limit switch for the Z end stop is when the bed homes all the way to the nozzle?
The switch for the Z axis is there.
Sure. No, just go ahead and click that home Z button on the screen, and it should home the Z, right? And it clicks a limit switch when it does that. Where did it home to? Right there. So you see on the left, see that red? Is that,
oh yeah,
is that red thing clicking a limit switch or something like that? Let's look for
that's like an induction sensor, I think.
right. Let's look for the Z limit switch. Do you see on the QR code on the face of that motor? Just to the right of that is the limit switch for the X axis, the left-right axis. See?
Yeah.
So that goes all the way left, so it clicks that. So what we're looking for is something similar for the Z axis. That when that head comes all the way down to the bed like that, it goes click, and it clicks a Z limit switch.
Oh, right, okay. I thought it would just use the induction sensor, but maybe it has got a limit switch. So.
Is there a Z limit switch at all?
I don't know. There might be like but I've had the I can't see one, but that doesn't necessarily mean there isn't one.
Let's go ahead and manually raise the bed Z by like 10 millimeters just to raise it up out of the way, and we'll look underneath there and see if we can see where that Z limit is.
Sorry, you're cutting out there.
I said let's go ahead and manually use the Z plus, increment it, bring it up away from the bed a little bit. Offset, no.
Okay.
Just use the manual control, right?
Yeah.
So let's come up in the Z. So when it goes all the way down and it clicks a limit switch, where is that limit switch on the CR-10?
It doesn't have a limit switch as such because the nozzles has ploughed into the bed before, and it's just purely down to not having the settings correct on the home on that leveling screen, and I think it just uses the induction sensor to sort of sense, where it is.
I mean, that's very odd to me. I would expect that there is some kind of Z limit switch, maybe a Z max at the top and not a Z min at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Let me have a look around. No. Not seeing another switch. It's got X and Y, but no Z.
That's very odd to me. What generation of Ender? The CR. The CR-10.
Yeah, the CR-10S.
Right. Is the I mean, the head's not on the assembly itself that goes up and down, is it? It's just the sensor with on the head there.
Yeah, just sensor and nozzle.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, so I guess all those values you're seeing, those are the corrective values that it applies.
Sorry, you cut it out there.
Sure, all those values that you're seeing on the screen, those are the corrective values that it applies as it goes across the bed to make sure that it's equidistant from the bed everywhere it goes. So
yeah, on the leveling, on those, or it's like that's where it's done the 16-point check, whatever, across the bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But then, like, I can do a Z offset here, but I can also do a Z offset in the move screen. So I don't know what the difference is between those two.
Right. Well, that's so Z offset in the move screen here, this is just a manual control of your Z axis. So you can just move it around. In the other screen, that's actually asking you this equidistant distance that you want for the first layer as it goes around adapting. How far away do you want that distance to be? So you can you can specify a further distance if you want to go with thicker layers, or like a shorter gap if you want to go with thinner layers.
Okay. So because the thing that confused me, I think, was that I would do the leveling and stuff, and then when I'd hit home, and every now and then it would just literally, the nozzle would plow into the bed. So I didn't know whether that was like a firmware issue or something.
No, see that sounds definitely like an issue of a physical Z limit switch not being like in the proper spot. Like you could loosen it a little bit and raise it up by a fraction of a millimeter and tighten it back down. That's why I was
Okay.
having you try to look for the Z limit switch on this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because then at least it would have like a hardware override almost if it's an actual physical switch, you know, to say like, do not go past this point.
Right. So when you home the Z axis, it just goes until it hits that switch. Now you have like a thick pad on your glass. I wonder if you remove the pad, does the natural home of the printer put it somewhere where it's not, you know, dragging into there? Because it may be that this added thickness of the pad is what's essentially throwing it off.
Oh, I
Like it may be
see.
configured to be X amount of distance away, but not accounting for the thickness of the pad that's there, right? I mean, it is a standard consumable with the thing, so you'd think like that wouldn't be the case, but
Oh, sorry, you cut out there again.
sure. When you home the Z on the screen there, you just go to
Yeah.
the. Do you dig into the bed like you said, or what?
Um, what have I hit home on this move screen?
Right, for the Z axis specifically.
Yeah. Do I hit? So that says auto home at the moment.
Okay. Oh,
I
look at
don't
that.
know if it. I haven't.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's what it's gonna do, but we'll
I'd
find
hover
out.
my hand on the power button if I were you. Oh, it looks like it.
Yeah.
Wait, it struck a Z
That's stopping.
switch. It's
So
clicking.
yeah, that was.
Did you just say it
Oh,
was?
that behaved itself that time.
I see. Did you just
Sorry,
say
you
it
keep
was?
cutting out.
Did you just say it was clicking? I thought I saw that it clicked and then backed off and then touched again. Did I not see
Um,
it correctly?
yeah, actually, you might be. Let me try that again. So that's X and Y are clicking. Let me
Okay.
just see if it doesn't click for the Z though. It just uses the sensor.
And you're absolutely sure that when it goes down like that, that it's not actually physically triggering a limit switch somewhere, right?
I'm 80% sure.
Hmm. That's an odd feature. I've never seen a printer without a Z limit switch that way.
Okay.
I'm still very suspicious that there is one.
Okay. I'm definitely not hearing it click like the other two because they probably use the same switches for each axis, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
But,
They'd be the exact same component.
yeah. But
So are you able to start a print successfully, or what's your issue exactly?
yeah, it's all printing fine. I've calibrated it all. It was just more trying to get a sort of proper understanding of the leveling screen and the move screen and things like that to understand the sort of differences between
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Z. But I get it. Yeah, if it's like Z plus and Z minus on the calibration, then I can see that that is literally just an offset from what's being calibrated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. And then when you hit home, what did you say home was the point of that?
Home generally will move the printer until it clicks its Z limit switch. So,
And is it just like a self-test, is it? Or
well, it's just to put you at the origin, so you know like what the default distance is there.
oh, okay, right.
Like say for instance, you wanted to put some super
Um,
thick plate to
okay,
print on, like a heavy glass plate or something. That plate would be a different thickness than what you're putting on now. So
yeah,
you would have to adjust by sort of specifying a offset distance to accommodate the thickness of that plate, you see.
okay, cool. Yeah, I think that was it really, to be honest. It was just sort of just getting a sort of bit of clarity on that, because when I initially sort of set this up a while back, yeah, the nozzle was ploughing into the bed, and there was, you know, it didn't. Sometimes it would go when you clicked home, it would home as I expected it would, and then other times it would plough into the bed, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but it might have just been a firmware issue. I've changed it over to a different, like a custom firmware, which seems a lot more stable.
So when you home it different, are you talking
So
about you home it maybe once with the screen and you home it some other way with maybe USB attached to a computer? Are you homing it different ways in those different times?
no, I've only ever homed it just through here.
Right. Okay.
But okay, cool. No, that's yeah, that's sort of cleared up for me, I think, in my head.
Still very. It seems very strange that it doesn't have a Z limit switch. That's odd to me, but
I'll have a look, and if I find one, I'll give you I'll take a picture, or I'll give you a shout and let you know.
I mean, I probably could look it up on Google right now, huh?
Oh, that's true.
CR-10 Z
So no.
limit switch. Limit switch for, oh, here's a replacement component. Here's what it looks like. It's like a little,
Okay.
where is the CR-10 Z limit switch? Oh, here, there's a CR-10 Z limit switch adjustable bracket on Thingiverse, which allows
Okay.
folks to, can you see this? Here we go. Can can you go to, are you on the internet? Can you go to Thingiverse?
Yeah, I can go to Thingiverse.
Search for item called CR-10 Z limit.
Okay.
Do you see this like right angle piece? It's black, made by a guy named M. Veriv.
Um,
Maybe I can copy the link to you in the chat and see if that works.
did you say it was a CR10 limit? Is that what you?
Mm-hmm. Here, I'm gonna go in the
Uh,
chat and copy paste the link. There it is.
okay.
So do you see what that item is?
Did you say you pasted the link to me?
In the Zoom chat, correct.
Right. Okay. I've only got a Zoom running on my phone. I thought it was on Facebook. Sorry.
I can put up Facebook there, and if you like, let me put that there. So, boom.
Okay. Let me have a look.
So do you see what that item is?
Okay. I can see. Is that the CR10? That's obviously on the side of it, isn't it?
Right.
Is the CR10 the same as mine? 3 limit switch. Okay.
Isn't that what you mentioned, having like a CR-10? It looks like a relatively later generation, pretty recent model.
Just turn a light. I've got quite a bright light here. Let's see if I can find it.
But it's on the other side. It's not on that
Yeah.
side. Hmm.
Let's see.
Is that it? above the, just to the right of the threaded rod screw there. Just to the right of the coupler.
Like
Up in there, the turn
around
down.
here.
What's that right there?
Not seeing a switch.
So the motor, no.
This is the Z. That's the Z motor. And then this is the.
It's not like completely under the bed, is it? Is it that the bed goes down and then underneath the bed assembly it triggers something? I mean, that
sorry, you broke up. Then you end up sounding like a robot.
Well, in any case, you saw what the picture of that other CR-10 bracket was, right?
Yeah.
So essentially what that person's able to do is loosen and tighten that and raise it and lower it a little bit to get a different offset as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that they've. I think that looks like an additional piece because it's on the vertical, on the sort of Z-axis runner on this part here.
Mm-hmm.
You see my. Oh yeah, here we go. On this part here, it looks like it's been added onto that on the other side.
Wait, let's go back over there where you just were.
Here.
Oh,
over there.
Yeah. See, what I'm looking at is, do you see the top of the motor? You see how there's like a black block on the motor, the Z motor?
Pardon? Sorry.
You see the Z motor that's connected to the threaded rod, right? On the bottom there? Do you see how above it there's that black block? What is that?
Well, that's just like a bracket or something. There's no switches or anything.
No. Okay. Well, in any case, if you were able to find your Z limit switch, you could give it a global adjust in that way if you wanted to accommodate another plate.
Yeah. I'll do some research and see if it's hiding somewhere or whatever. And if it is, then I can obviously look at adjusting it.
That's only if you need to, right? I mean, it should be default set to work with its default consumables.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just be aware if you are messing around with new slicer software and new slicer settings that you don't inadvertently affect that initial Z offset distance. And you'd be able to tell right away because the first layer would go down and it would be too far or it would be too close, right? You'd see that.
Okay. I'll keep an eye on that.
Cool. Do you have anything else, sir?
No, I think that was it, really, to be honest. Yeah, thanks for that. Did you want me to... I recorded it on like a GoPro, so I don't know if that's any use to you or not.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's already gets written onto my desktop in a file, so I'll just upload that way.
Cool. Okay, no worries. Well, thanks for that. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Nice one. Thanks a lot. You too.
Bye-bye.